Intro: The Silence of Power. There comes a time in your life when silence becomes your loudest strength. When your calm, detached presence speaks more than your words ever could. You no longer chase attention, affection, or validation. You no longer try to prove your worth to those who never saw it. Instead, you begin to understand something deeper, something that most people never grasp. That peace is not the absence of noise. It is the mastery of self, and in that mastery, in that sacred space where solitude becomes serenity, you begin to see who you truly are. You begin to feel the quiet fire of the Sigma female, the woman who walks her own path without seeking permission, applause, or approval. A woman who does not demand to be seen, because her presence is already unforgettable. She doesn't stand apart because she tries to. She stands apart because she cannot belong to anything that asks her to betray her essence. Byung Chul Han, the philosopher of stillness, once wrote that our age suffers from an excess of noise, an excess of exposure. We scroll endlessly, speak constantly, and seek to be visible at every moment. But in that endless search for recognition, we lose the quiet dignity of the self. The Sigma female does not lose it. She reclaims it. Her silence is not weakness. Her independence is not pride. It is a form of clarity, a refusal to participate in the madness of constant comparison. So, if you have ever felt misunderstood for your solitude, if you have been told that you are too quiet, too distant, or too independent, you may already walk the path of the Sigma. And in this journey, there are signs revealed not by your behavior but by how you respond to his. Today we will explore 10 male behaviors that quietly confirm your Sigma nature, not as a label but as a mirror, reflecting the strength, depth, and grace you already possess. Let us begin. You see through dominance. When a man tries to impress you through dominance, power, or status, you don't feel moved. You observe. You sense the performance beneath the armor. Where others might be drawn to the flash of control, you see the insecurity that hides behind it. You don't confuse assertiveness with wisdom or aggression with confidence. You understand that true power never announces itself. It simply is. And so, when a man seeks to dominate you with his words or his energy, you don't fight back. You don't shrink. You simply remain still. In that stillness, you dismantle his illusion. Because silence has a gravity of its own, it pulls away all pretension. Men who are used to control find it unsettling. Because your calm cannot be manipulated. Byung Chul Han once said that modern relationships are filled with performative intimacy, gestures of closeness that lack depth. You have no interest in that. You see through it instantly. You crave connection that is authentic, not decorative. So you withdraw, not because you are cold, but because you can feel when something is empty. You are not impressed by the superficial show of confidence. You are drawn to the quiet consistency of character, and that is why you confuse men who rely on dominance. They cannot overpower what does not seek to compete. Your strength is not rebellion. It is awareness, and awareness is the rarest form of power. You don't chase validation. There's something about you that unsettles men who crave attention. Because you don't chase it. You don't need it. You move through the world with a quiet assurance that your worth is not up for negotiation. When a man withdraws his affection to test you, you remain calm. When he tries to make you jealous, you do not react. You understand that manipulation is the language of the insecure, and you refuse to speak that language. Byung Chul Han teaches that modern life is built on the endless production of likes, of digital approval that never satisfies. But the Sigma female is not interested in applause. You understand that peace comes from self-respect, not external validation. You have learned that the more you seek to be validated, the more you lose your authenticity. So instead you cultivate inner stillness, a state where you no longer measure yourself through anyone's gaze. Men who expect emotional dependency find this hard to understand. They are accustomed to being the center of attention, to having their approval desired. But you, the Sigma female, exist outside that structure. You know that a relationship built on validation is a transaction, not a bond. When you love, it's from abundance, not from need. When you connect, it's because you choose, not because you lack. And this is what sets you apart. Your love is calm, not chaotic. It doesn't burn to be seen. It flows quietly without demanding recognition. Your strength lies in your detachment, not because you fear closeness, but because you refuse to lose yourself in it. This is why you attract intensity, but rarely attachment. You are the mirror that reveals the inner world of every man you meet. Some find peace in your presence, others discomfort, because your calm forces them to face their own restlessness, and that is your quiet revolution. Part 3. You're calm when tested. There are moments when people, especially men, test the strength of your patience, not always consciously but instinctively. They provoke, question, or withdraw to measure your reaction, but your silence, your refusal to be shaken, disarms them completely. You do not react impulsively because you have learned that energy is sacred. Every reaction is an investment, and you no longer invest where peace is uncertain. When someone tries to pull you into chaos, you choose composure. You've realized that peace is not something you find. It's something you protect. Byung Chul Han often speaks about the violence of overreaction, the way constant noise and instant emotion erode the inner self. He says that the modern world is obsessed with stimulation, with constant excitement, with proving that it feels. But the Sigma female has moved beyond that. You do not need to prove your depth by displaying your emotions. You live in the quiet knowing that still water reflects the sky more clearly than a storm. So, when a man pushes your boundaries to see if you'll bend, you don't shout. You don't explain, you simply hold your space. That stillness isn't coldness. It's control. Because you've learned that reacting gives away your peace and silence protects it. And in that calm you radiate a power that words can't match. Men sense it. That quiet, unshakable energy that doesn't beg, doesn't chase, and doesn't break. You show them that maturity isn't loud, it's disciplined. And that kind of presence is unforgettable. You are no longer addicted to drama because peace tastes better than attention, and in that truth lies your greatest strength. You value solitude over attachment. Solitude is not loneliness, it is the home you've built within yourself. You are not afraid of your own company. In fact, you crave it, because only in solitude do you hear the language of your own soul. You don't fear being alone. You fear losing yourself in the wrong connection, and that is what separates you from the ordinary. Byung Chul Han calls solitude the art of preserving one's interiority. He believes the modern person has forgotten how to be alone, always seeking distraction, afraid of silence. But you, the Sigma female, find silence nourishing. It sharpens your intuition. It purifies your thoughts. It reminds you that peace is not found in people, but in presence. When a man withdraws his attention, you don't panic. You don't chase closure, because you've already given it to yourself. You understand that distance reveals truth, and anyone who cannot respect your solitude was never meant to share it. You find beauty in still evenings, in long walks alone, in quiet reflection. You are not running from the world. You are simply choosing to meet it from a place of clarity, A man may interpret your solitude as mystery, or even coldness, but in truth it is your highest form of self-love, the refusal to dilute your soul for temporary companionship. And the irony is this very independence makes you magnetic. Because people are drawn to those who do not seek to be followed. Your energy whispers, "I am whole with or without you." And that whisper speaks louder than any declaration. You've learned that solitude is not an absence of connection. It's a sanctuary for authenticity. And once you find that sanctuary, you never let it go. You inspire respect, not control. There is something about your presence that shifts the energy in a room. Not because you demand attention but because your silence commands it. You don't compete for dominance. You embody dignity. When men meet you, they feel something unfamiliar, respect mixed with unease, because they sense you cannot be controlled, not through affection, not through attention, not through fear. Byung Chul Han once wrote that the modern world confuses exposure with power, that we are taught to be seen, to be loud, to perform. But your power lies in restraint. You understand that the one who controls her attention controls her world. You don't beg for respect. You become it. Through your boundaries, through your composure, through your quiet refusal to be diminished. When a man speaks to you with arrogance, you don't fight back with anger. You observe. You smile slightly, not out of amusement, but out of understanding. You see the boy in the man, trying to validate his worth through superiority, and you refuse to participate in that illusion. Respect for you is not demanded. It's mirrored. You respect yourself deeply, your time, your emotions, your energy, and the world reflects it back. You've learned that people treat you according to the standard you uphold, not the words you speak. So you carry yourself with quiet grace. You don't explain your worth, you embody it. You walk away when peace ends, not out of ego but out of wisdom, because you understand that not every connection deserves your softness. And men, especially those unaccustomed to boundaries, feel this deeply. They may not always understand you, but they remember you, because true respect is not born from fear, it is born from presence, and you, the Sigma female, have mastered that art. You don't argue, you observe. The modern world believes that power is found in confrontation, that to be strong is to out-argue, outspeak, or outprove. But you have learned the opposite truth. Power is not in reaction, it is in restraint. When someone challenges you, provokes you, or misinterprets your silence, you do not rush to defend yourself. You have no need to explain your essence to those who are determined not to understand it. You've realized that people hear only what their level of awareness allows, and so you watch not with anger, but with a kind of detached compassion. Byung Chul Han describes the Transparency Society, a world obsessed with exposure, where everyone must declare, explain, justify. But the Sigma female refuses that demand. You understand that mystery is not deception, it's protection. You preserve your inner life from unnecessary noise. You don't engage in meaningless debates. You don't shout to prove a point. You simply know. And that quiet knowing often feels like distance to others. But it is really clarity, because truth doesn't need to shout. It simply is. So when a man tries to provoke you into an argument to claim emotional power, you stay still. Your calm becomes unbearable to those who live off reaction. He begins to feel the weight of his own noise reflected back to him in your silence. That is your strength. You expose chaos not through conflict, but through composure. Your observation cuts deeper than criticism. You see people as they are, not as they perform to be, and while others waste their energy convincing, you conserve yours for creation. For you, understanding has replaced judgment, and peace has replaced victory. You transform pain into power. There was a time when your sensitivity felt like a curse. You felt too deeply, cared too quickly, trusted too openly. You learned hard lessons, not through philosophy but through heartbreak. But that pain didn't destroy you. It refined you. You no longer see suffering as punishment. You see it as initiation, a quiet teacher that shaped your boundaries and sharpened your intuition. Byung Chul Han speaks of the fatigue society, a world exhausted by constant positivity, terrified of pain. But you have faced pain and befriended it. You no longer run from discomfort. You listen to it. You understand that healing is not about forgetting the wound. It's about learning to walk with it gracefully. You have discovered that the deepest strength comes from softness that survived the storm. You can stand alone not because you never fell, but because you got up differently each time. You've stopped seeking to be unbreakable. You've learned to be unshakable. When a man sees this in you, he senses something rare. He cannot define it, but he feels it. A peace that comes from a soul that has already faced its shadows. You do not chase light because you have already made peace with the dark. You've learned that love without self-respect is dependency, and strength without tenderness is emptiness, and so you move through the world balanced, fierce yet gentle, alone yet whole, calm yet powerful. Pain did not harden you. It purified you. And in that purification lies the quiet glory of the Sigma female. The quiet revolution. The Sigma female does not seek to lead a movement. She is the movement, silent, subtle, invisible to those who only understand noise. Her revolution is inward. While the world screams for attention, she chooses stillness. While others measure their worth through comparison, she measures it through peace. She has understood the rarest truth, that the most powerful life is not the one most seen, but the one most felt. Byung Chul Han once said that modern life has become an exhibition, endless exposure with no reflection. But you, the Sigma female, live differently. You have turned away from performance and returned to essence. You no longer need the world's permission to be whole. You have nothing to prove. And that is why you are free. When men meet you, they feel it, that quiet authority that comes from knowing yourself deeply. They may not always understand you, but they cannot forget you. Because in a world of noise, your silence echoes the loudest. You walk alone but not lonely. You are detached but not unfeeling. You are independent but not closed. You are simply whole, a mirror of strength softened by wisdom. The Sigma female is not a role you play. It is a state of being you arrive at when the world no longer dictates your worth. It's the stillness after chaos, the calm after the storm, the light that no longer needs an audience to shine. So remember, your peace is your power, your silence is your statement, and your solitude is your sanctuary. Let the world chase noise. You remain still, see mirror, and watch everything come to you in time.